The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show. Do you know which brought to you with?
Is it solicitors?
It is.
I forget the name.
The best.
Not just any solicitors.
Yeah, the greatest bunch of solicitors in the land, Levi Solicitors, and they will do you a 10% discount on your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Dan, Michael, and Moscow White, Daniel Chapman here with you for Propaganda, where we react to the most recent game. As we always say, this one kind of ebbs and flows across the season. When Leeds United decide to not bother turning up in the second half, it makes this slightly harder, but we plough on regardless because we're your friend. We're here for you.
Well, we've not got to the end of it yet. We might just do the first bit and then fade out. If we're all just snoozing on the floor while somebody runs rings around the studio for the second half of these, that would be like a podcast representation of Sunday.
Into it then. This is the Leeds reaction this half of the show. We do the Palace reaction and the wider world of Propaganda after this. First up then, Leeds, and the average scores, we get our TSB Plus members to score the players, the manager, and even what you describe here on the form, Moscow, as the dickhead ref out of 10. We'll sort of cover the scores off as we go. The headlines from this, though, Rasmus got man of the match with 7.07, just pipping Pascal, the big sexy pirate, with 7.02 average score out of 10.
People say we have problems at full-back. Our two best players, right back and left back, all solved, all sorted.
The lowest score was 4.26, which we'll get to in due course. Jesse actually scored worse than the ref, who got 4.63. We'll pop all that into the supercomputer and then update the Player of the Year tracker as well at the end of this show as well. Tell you who's on course for Player of the Year based on your scores. Right, what's the general vibe with this one then?
Bad vibes. People are worried.
It's not reflected in the attacking momentum graph because if you stop it about a third of the way in there...
Yeah, I just thought it was worth putting this on just to remind ourselves how that game went.
We were in charge of it.
It was great for a bit, wasn't it? Should have been 2 or 3 up, and then the end of it happened.
I did feel at about 25 minutes, I think it was, that we had it all sorted. It was like, yeah, we win this, not a problem. I couldn't see any reason for us not to. We were 1-0 up by that point, still making more chances. And that's just before they equalised, isn't it? So, all my fault. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought similar. I definitely thought we seemed to have their number on this one, but then I did say, as it got to half-time at 1-1, we're not winning. This could swing the other way because they'll make changes. And the commentator on the international feed did say, didn't they, that, it looks like Palace might have made changes at half-time. Do you think? And they did. There are fears, aren't there, that we're sliding into another relegation battle, which is natural given the league position and the points total. I think it's fine to be worried about that.
I mean, it was the first time I've been properly worried about it, I think, was this game. I think it's because we're seeing the same thing happen, aren't we? It's like the Southampton game. That was another one where we looked to have it kind of wrapped up and we were doing well in it. And then games turn and we can't turn them back, is the way it feels. Like once teams get beyond that initial can't cope with us running about the place thing, or they make an adjustment to deal with it, then we don't seem to be able to get out of our rut that we're in.
Coach in the comments going full Normanton, not enough negativity. That's talking about our performance on the match ball. We are shite. We are essentially in free fall and we're not going to get the results we need in our next matches. It's not working.
It's possibly true. I
mean, these are the fears manifest, aren't they? I think we went through this whole cycle on the match ball where we were wondering, is Marsh any good? Does this work? I mean, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but it's hard not to feel worried when you see something as toothless as that.
Well, Joe has given a nice little rundown of where the wins under Marsh have come from, and you have to say it's a fairly convincing point he's making.
Hiya, lads. So I'm worried. I'm going to try and be objective here, but I've done some maths and some totting up, and it's not looking good. So since Marsh came in, we've played 20 league games. We've won 6 of them. Right, we beat Norwich, we beat Wolves, we beat Watford, we beat Brentford, we beat Wolves, we beat Chelsea. Those 6 wins out of 20 league games, 3 have come against 11 men. The other 3, away at Wolves last season 3-2, away at Brentford 2-1, and at home against Chelsea this season for 3-0, were against 10 men. So in 20 league matches, we have beaten 11 men 3 times. That's not good. I'm worried.
I think that's not necessarily true, is it, of Chelsea? Like the sending off was fairly late and we were already in the clear at that point.
Yeah, okay. we'll allow him that one. But the others, yeah. I mean, looking back to last season, the Wolves and the Brentford games were the two that you think they potentially did turn on things in refereeing decisions that went in our favour. Not that they were unfair decisions.
But then the Villa game turned against us based on refereeing decisions.
It did.
Yeah, and I'm not sure last season needs to be carried into this season. It's more about where we are now. And where we are now is, I think it's worth remembering that we are only 8 games into this, because that big month off means that although it's nearly mid-October and the leaves are on the ground and there's a
you've got a pullover on, Moscow.
I've got a pullover on. I've come dressed as Dino Zoff, and there's the rustling of the leaves as you swish your boots through the towpath. Oh no, that's very nice, but we've only played, like, everybody will say, I'll give it 10 games to see where we are. We've not even got close to, well, we are closer to 10 than we were on the opening day. It still all feels quite new as well. So that we haven't won many games. We haven't played many games.
One thing I will say is it feels like we're in games, doesn't it? I think that's the thing. There's a goal in most of them. I know the Brentford game was a bit of a weird aberration because of Llorente, but the others are all pretty close. Like we could have beaten Everton. We could have beaten Villa. With things have been different. We should have beaten Southampton.
Isn't that the nature of the Premier League, though? Like, a lot of games are close like this. You know,
it's just, I suppose it's because
could swing either way.
Now we've played a cluster of teams who we consider to be about our hopeful level of fairly safe, but not brilliant. We've not taken many points from those teams.
No, but I think there's maybe something to do with our relative newness. It's to do with that, Vieira had that Palace team all last season. I was thinking as well, when did Rene Maric come in? He wasn't even here for the first game of the season, I don't think.
Was it just before it? I can't remember. It was very late.
He's turned up late, and things like that are all still quite new. And I just feel like time will give us more of a sense of this. And things as well, a fit Bamford hopefully would finish that chance, and then it's 2-0. And then I don't think we lose from 2-0, touch whatever wood is available.
And not only that, we're a Forest postponement and potential win there away from, like, being around upper mid-table here.
And also, I think Villa, we didn't lose, and we didn't concede. And then here as well, although the first goal is irritating in 2 ways, but it's mostly just stupid. And then the winner was actually a good goal from Palace. You can pick mistakes in our back line for that, but Eze does very well to kind of sneak away from Somerville. He watches Somerville have a look at him, and then when he turns back, that's when he makes his move onto a great layoff from Zaha. And then I don't know what, Cooper didn't really have many good options in that situation. I suppose just dive at him and hope he shoots is a reasonable one. But Eze has read that very well, dropped his shoulder, got around him, and then picked his spot from there. But we're not, for all that Palace dominated the second half, they didn't feel like they were going to score loads of goals against us. We felt reasonably solid. The bigger problem was that up the other end, we just ran out of ideas and there was no imagination. We weren't able to get kind of a foothold in the game to kind of stop Palace from just attacking us. But we're not a million miles away from the teams that we are playing. And I do wonder what more time gives us. But then I also wonder what they were doing during the month off when we had nothing else to do apart from practice all this stuff.
As you mentioned, both Cooper and Bamford there, I quite enjoyed Benny Lux's comment. He says, Leeds were dominant in the early stages and could have gone 2 up had Bamford converted a gilt-edged chance when one-on-one with the keeper. Then a needless foul from Cooper gifted them a set piece, which we failed to defend. This could have been written in 2019. Sign a fucking striker.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Marsh after that game and how long he might have. But, we know Bamford and we know Cooper well enough to know that even, during our promotion and the first season of the Premier League, there weren't, mistakes were never coached out of them. Bamford would still miss a few. Cooper will still make a few mistakes. They are who they are and they will be who they are forever.
Is the fact that we're still relying on them, though, not a bit of a pointer that the recruitment's been a bit of a letdown? Like, if you look at the money we spent on Firpo, Rodrigo and Dan James, what's that, 67 million quid, pushing towards 70? And we're still looking at Bamford, Cooper, the guys who were here right back at the start of all this to change our fortunes.
There's never been a question of replacing them, has there?
I'm not necessarily saying that. What I'm saying is we haven't supplemented them well enough with other things.
Well, I think actually when we signed Rodrigo, I think a lot of people probably assumed that would be Bamford benched. And as it is...
He turned into Harry Kane for a year.
He did turn really good for a year. But I think people probably assumed that he would, as Spain's number 9 coming in, record fee and everything, think, well, he's going to be the starting striker. And he wasn't. And then Koch and Llorente would have seemed to be of a higher calibre than Liam Cooper as well when we signed them. Admittedly, both right-footed, aren't they? So it was never going to work like that necessarily in Bielsa's system. But I think the thing you look at now is Strauch's in quite good form, and he's left-footed, so it would be nice to have him as an option for centre-back as well. But because we have one injured left-back at the club, we don't have any chance to do that.
I know it's been reductive, but I keep just going back to the idea that the owner kind of just isn't wealthy enough, and that's dead entitled and dreadful as a football fan, isn't it? But I'm carrying 16 years of pain here off the relegation and the scars of last season as well. So I realise that's fueling my thinking, particularly when we lose. It is all motivated by fear, as we were saying in the wake of Villa.
That's the idea as well, that we could just change it all at once. Like, we could spend as much money as we want. Are we saying that we replace all 11 players at once and then we're great? It is going to be more iterative than that. So, the thing about Strauch being at left back now and saying that we don't have anybody to challenge Cooper, we do actually have Cooper's long-term replacement is here and looks amazing. We need a left back, but then if we do sign a left back, is Strauch getting in the team ahead of Cooper right now because Cooper is still the club captain and he's got that seniority but there's that room where if this keeps changing bit by bit, season by season, then maybe in the summer or January a left back comes in and then that change happens. But it's kind of waiting for those things to happen is the problem for us having to watch it. Well, remembering, I was looking at this one, Victor Orta's thing from literally 11 days ago when he said that this season's target is to consolidate between 10th and 14th. Next season's is to consolidate between 12th and 9th, and then we establish ourselves among the top 10. And at the moment, we're 14th, so we're at the bottom end of where we need to be consolidating as far as what Victor Orta, exact words, this year the goal is to establish ourselves between 14th and 10th place. So we're not going to have the perfect players to replace all our promotion players now. I don't know if that would even be possible unless we try to do a big Nottingham Forest thing. It is going to be like this where there are holes that need to be filled.
Fun,
and as we fill them,
it's fun.
And as we fill them, maybe that's the thing. Because the left back thing is fucking infuriating, because if we just signed a really good one, we would be so much a better team. But then we had that with the midfield last season. I was saying if we just signed some midfielders, we'd have a much better team. And then it was interesting that then Aronson became the answer. And Aronson would not have been available last summer because he'd only just got to Salzburg. So the way it's trying to wonder whether it's accurate to suggest that Victor Orta has these players, and there is the dream left back will be available next summer that will be the next Arrigo for Leeds for the next 10 years. And so we're not signing one now. We're just going to get through it until that's available, in the same way that it seemed like we didn't sign a midfielder last season. And then Brendan Aronson is right there waiting for us. Tyler Adams is available from Leipzig because he's got that eye on the future of, well, we can have them then, but it just means it's going to be difficult now. And
I mean, that's all well and good, but we're not here for reasoned opinions and, calm reflection. What we're here is to polarise everybody, get everybody angry on the internet and do some bloodletting. So let's hear from Billy B.
Fucking hell. I'm just tired of being bored. It's boring football. We've got no idea going forward. If the pressing doesn't work, and it's never going to work for 90 minutes, you can't keep that up for 90 minutes. We did it for 20 minutes against Palace, but when it stops working in a game, we've got nothing. We've got no attacking idea. Other teams can just block us out and then score easy, cheap goals against us, and we always make it look so hard. It is just boring. And I'm sorry, but if Jesse Marsh loves this team, it's like me saying I love me fucking grandma's curtains. Fucking hell. Twat.
It's a bit harsh. Jesse, by the way, in his tactics, scored 3 out of 10 according to bang on the nose 3 according to our TSB Plus members. The lowest scoring of anybody who participated in this game.
There are a few criticisms of him. Jason Kay says that it's basically kick and rush. It's no more sophisticated than Jack Charlton's putting him under pressure style of the 1980s.
Maxwell Bygraves as well, just an energetic Burnley. Is that a bit harsh?
It's fair. I mean, this is kind of, it's the RB plan. Billy B had it right that it won't work for 90 minutes. And Jesse Marsh was saying afterwards that he's saying that when the teams he's coached in the past score in bunches.
Is this in your match report? Because I think I've read this somewhere.
Yes, I put it there as well.
It's on the website. Read that.
Absolutely, just repeating things that I've already written better. But such is my life.
So we'll blather them out here on video.
But it's the whole RB style of football all comes out of optimization and about how you take a team of players who are not very good and get efficient results with them. And you're not going to. And so the idea is, you're not going to be able to take a team that isn't very good and have them dominate a game for 90 minutes. That's not going to be possible.
They had Erling Haaland.
Ignore Erling Haaland. Talk about this is before they even got to Erling Haaland. So what's your approach? But you can reasonably expect to dominate for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And the idea is that in that time, you create enough chances and you score enough goals that you've then got the lead and you don't have to worry about the other 80, 75 minutes. That's the optimization and the efficiency and the use of resources that Red Bull's football is kind of all directed towards. And that's why, Jesse Marsh has only coached Red Bull teams, apart from if he had the, he doesn't even count his time before he joined New York because he said he was trying to be Bob Bradley and it didn't work. So
after which point he was trying to be Ralph Rangnick.
Yeah, basically, and that did work. And so, he was beating Patrick Vieira's team 7-0 in New York.
Just be yourself, Jesse.
But that's when he's talking about scoring in bunches, is that when we start a game as well as we did against Crystal Palace, and we have what we had on the momentum graph that you put here, where it says us orders completely attacking for the first 20, 25 minutes. You get the one from Brendan Aronson, then there's the 2 times the goalkeeper gave us opportunities, and then the Bamford chance.
And we're 4-0 up.
Well, exactly. And in the RB fucking perfect master plan world, we score 4 goals in that situation, and then we don't have to worry about the fact that we're not very good over 90 minutes because we've blown a team away in a real narrow amount of time. And also a 4-0 lead means you can play better for the rest of the time because you don't need to worry about it. So it is... He was very clear about this, that we need to score more goals and we need to take more advantage when we are on top. And other people would say that scoring 1 goal when we're on top, the goal that we got, which was a brilliant goal, Brendan Aronson dancing beautifully through everybody and unlucky to hit the post, but still, even that was a good effort. I was waiting for him to sky it into the stand. I was like, fucking hell, he's actually very nearly scored himself. 1-0 is taking advantage, but... in this realm and the football that we play and the players that we've got, there's the feeling comes from the RB optimization football. It's like, no, you need 2, you need 3, you need 4. And I don't know how likely that is.
Don't we need people who can actually put it in the net, though? That would help.
Well, Bamford, that second one, it was...
Well, let's get onto these because we've got people who've sent stuff in on them. Because Rodrigo was the lowest scorer in the team at 4.26. Bamford didn't beat him by much, 4.75. So is that where the problem lies? Is it up front? Here's Mick.
Have to say, I think that defeat is on Jesse. Anyone could see that Roca wasn't doing anything in that match. He lasted till 80 minutes. Anyone could see that Bamford was flagging. He's had so long out. I'm just very frustrated because I think it was Christensen's best game for us. I think he was excellent against that miserable Zaha. I thought Koch was brilliant for us, but just... And it's not even... I wouldn't even blame the midfield and an attack. We know Rodrigo can't play in that position. We've had 2.5 years of this. It's just frustrating. And if we can't make those decisions in-game to change it when it's not working, then we're going to be in for a long season of struggle.
I think that's what I was getting at, when I was talking about Kinnear saying that signings at this level for us at those prices have to work. We have to kind of stick with things come hell or high water.
We don't have to stick with Rodrigo at 10.
But they insist because he's in the senior group, isn't he? He's in the leadership group now. So they're going to try and shoehorn him into this side wherever they can.
I just hate him playing there. my
I
heart.
thought you would say you hate him there.
Well, well, do you know what? You do develop that. The more you see it, the more you get frustrated with him. But I don't think he can do it. So just stop playing him there. It's so frustrating. Like I'm at the point where I would have quite happily seen Somerville or Nonto or someone else just playing in that attacking three behind, so we didn't have to mess with it and leave Aronson in the middle and just see what happens. Because I've seen Rodrigo there so many times, and it's always bad. He doesn't seem to have the legs to do it. And a couple of people have picked up on it as well. Kevin says he's absolutely shite. Man wants to eat his dinner and have a lie down before passing the ball. And he can be really, really ponderous on it. And I just don't think it ever has worked.
He's fooled us again, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That hot streak.
Yeah, those little goals at the start of the season. Maybe this is the year it's going to come good. And then I thought, even as we were attacking very well in the first half, none of it was coming from him.
No.
But there, again, is one of the reasons why I think time is a factor here, because we've still not seen Luis Sinisterra at full tilt. And I think much as Rodrigo's in the leadership group, much as this idea that he has to play because we spent money on him, we spent money on Aronson, and he's Jesse Marsh's, he's one of his actual children. And I think the next game is Aronson's back at 10, and it's Sinisterra and Harrison behind Bamford. And I would like us to do that for as many games as possible between now and it stops working and we're angry at all them instead. So, and
then Tyler Roberts becomes the.
I just think Sinisterra is every game he's played so far, and there's not been many. He's played 2.5, really, hasn't he? Or if he's even managed that much.
I miss him.
He makes an impact.
Yeah.
Everton, we needed a goal, and he just cracked one in from distance. The Barnsley game, his debut in the League Cup, it was going all right, that match, but you were wondering when we were going to assert our dominance against League One Barnsley, and bang, he scores from distance, great goal. And then Brentford, how are we going to give ourselves a hope in this match? Sinisterra produces an individual goal from nothing, and he was looking good.
Well, you look at Eze, don't you look at Eze for Palace. He's picked it up and he's made something happen, and we need more players who can make stuff happen rather than just ponderous is the right word.
The Eze goal, in the way we play, you do wonder though if that even happens because we're so narrow. When we're attacking, it's so compacted sometimes in the middle of the pitch. It's very hard to even get a shot off from the edge of the box sometimes because there's no one wide to actually spread the defence out. It was the problem we had with him with Marsh's tactics last year, wasn't it? And it seems to make more sense with the current crop of players than it did last season when we had Rafinha, who was used to really hugging the touchline and was brilliant out there. But it still looks... we just never try width, I think, is the thing that frustrates me. Like the second half of this game, when we couldn't get anything going, we just kept trying to do the same thing over and over and over again. And you think, well, couldn't we just have for a little while? Couldn't Jackie just go and stand on the touchline and occupy a fullback for a bit and see if...
Talking about looking for plan B. That is a plan B,
see if we can make just something else happen, because we didn't get close to a chance in that second half, did we?
Yeah, we're ignorant when it comes to space deliberately by design. And you could see it was clear in the Wolves game, the first one of the season, that we were going towards the ball and everything Wolves did was about getting the ball out into space. So the number of times that they had one-on-one versus Christensen on the left wing with just nobody else in 30 yards is because they were looking for room.
Which is what Palace did second half as well with Zaha.
Yeah, whereas what we do is we give Harrison, we send him into a alley where there's 4 defenders and 3 of our players getting in the way as well. And like, right, get through that and see what you can. And you see those little moments as well where we do kind of ping it out of the midfield scramble and send Harrison or Aronson sprinting after it into space. And then there's a lot of pressure then on getting the next pass correct. And, if we had made a bit more of some of those moments in the second half, because we got away 2 or 3 times and then the ball just went into the box and it was aimless. And that was a shame. The Eze goal, I get shouted. I count that as a set piece concession because it came from their free kick. And it's interesting that's then, so if I'm allowed to have that as a goal from a free kick, because
which it isn't.
Well, we'd all gone back to defend it, and defending a dead ball situation didn't work, and it was all one phase of attacking until the ball was in the net. But it didn't come from a counter attack, and it didn't come from open play, and neither did their first goal. And Aston Villa didn't score
their first goal,
like
by the way.
Well.
Just worth saying that they I apologise to the person who pointed this out, but tweeted at us and said it was actually taken about 10 or 15 yards further forward than the foul occurred. The screen grabbed it. You could see the lines on the pitch. It was like, bloody hell, didn't even notice that.
Bent ref as well didn't help us. But there are some signs of promise there as well, in the fact that, I was saying before, but we didn't feel like we were massively open defensively against Palace. They were attacking us more, but we weren't giving up big chances. And it is then 2 set-piece goals. Mm-hmm. 2.
Let's say from John then.
Watching that from Melbourne, middle of the night, how do I go to sleep after that? Honestly, we have no finishing. First half was decent. Bamford, of course, missed an opportunity to put us 2-0 up. Rodrigo, back to the old Rodrigo. Bamford, back to the championship Bamford. Jesse Marsh seriously concerns me. I seriously am starting to think, I've tried to believe in him, that he's way out of his depth. And the bloody time wasting, God, this game is frustrating. I'm worried, boys. I'm worried that we're going to be just like last year, just scrapping in the last couple of weeks of the season, and we won't get away with it this time.
Oh, well.
I didn't think the time wasting was that bad. I know they did it towards the end. The thing is,
but everyone does.
I was going to say, if you're holding a 1-goal lead, I can sort of accept the time wasting. It's when a team does it in the first minute that it really pisses me off.
And they did it with the ball in play as well.
Yeah, they were taking a throw in, keep it in a corner.
Yeah, it wasn't as outrageous.
That's allowed, is that, isn't it?
There was a little bit. There was one where they chucked the ball completely in the wrong direction for throwing, and Luke Ayling was spinning around going like, well, why have they thrown it all the way down there when it should be taken over there?
A bit of a click manoeuvre, that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So they weren't the worst for it. And then I think on the other thing to remember with finishing is, like, I don't know if Bamford has gone back to Championship Bamford, and I don't know if we can necessarily make that judgment after one start, after a year away. I think, give him a chance to get back to himself. Gelhardt should have been on earlier because we know what he can do, and then we hope we know what he can do. We've got high hopes for what he could do. And we've seen him do stuff. And then you do got to wonder at what point, if Sonny Perkins, he has now stopped scoring in the under-21s as of last night. But if the guy is finishing chances every time they drop to him in the reserves, and Marsh has kind of alluded to it as well, that, you can't ignore a player who's playing that well. I'd hope, Rodrigo will probably haunt the squad even if he doesn't start the next few games, but he'll be a candidate for coming off the bench. But I would like Gelhardt to come on earlier, and then the 10-minute change to be Perkins come on and give us 10 minutes if we're in a situation where we need a goal, because I don't know what harm 10 minutes would do anybody. I think it would be all right. I think I railed against this idea last season. Well, because we weren't giving out sympathy debuts before, but I suppose this wouldn't be a sympathy debut. It would just be you've scored a lot of goals, so go and see if you can get one at this level. And I don't think,
and also it's the Hail Mary debuts at that stage yet.
But at that point, you're taking him off for Bamford, who looks knackered, or Rodrigo, who's contributed nothing. So it's not.
Rodrigo also looks knackered.
It's not really a gamble, is it? It's not like you're having to take off, an informed Sinisterra and thinking, well, I'm just going to try something a bit different, even though he's got something in his locker. Like, they both looked hopeless.
It's a bit like the frustration that Somerville didn't start and Rodrigo did, because what better opportunity to give Somerville a start than Sinisterra being suspended? And the limit of it is you could bring Rodrigo off the bench if it really wasn't working, and Sinisterra is going to be back for the next game. So if it don't work, fine, we just go back to what we were doing before. But I felt a bit sorry. I don't know if I felt sorry for Somerville, but again, he came on and he didn't really affect the game. And you could also say that letting Eze go, I thought it was good, clever movement from Eze to get away from him. But also it was a dead ball, and Somerville only had one job at that moment, which is mark a player, and he let him wander off. But when you're coming into a game as a substitute and you're a kid, maybe it's part of becoming a Premier League professional is that you need to be switched on and know where your player is defensively, as well as all the players you're going to skin going forward. But maybe that's easier to achieve from the beginning of a match, where you get much more. You're not having somebody waving a laminated sheet in front of you on the bench while you're trying to put your socks on, saying, right, these are your men at a dead ball. You get it all pre-match and much more of a chance to absorb it. We do just tend to be with Somerville just rushing him on into opportunities and saying, right, make what you can of that. Whereas a nice little full pre-match, go and listen to the Premier League anthem, shake hands with everybody. get into the game slowly instead of having to come on and do stuff. And there's no better chance for him to do it than Sunday.
All the good bits of Somerville that we've seen in the under 21s, is him isolating a player and going at him one-on-one and taking it past people and shooting.
In space.
And he had just absolutely no opportunity to do that against Palace. So it's very hard to judge him on that, I think, because if you don't pass the ball to him with any space in front of him, what are you actually hoping for him to do?
Can we hear from Sir Warnock's smelly socks? Which I think is a bit of a misnomer as well, because Warnock is a trained chiropodist, so he would have good foot care, wouldn't he?
There's some nice childish giggling on this, so I wanted to include it.
Oh, fair enough.
Lads, it's Warnock smelly socks and
Steve Evans sombrero.
Yep.
Double act.
First half, should have scored more. Bamford's left foot, pile of wank. I could do better. Second half was shit. Cheers.
I like that. I've started talking. I don't know what to say anymore.
Like drunk teenagers making a prank phone call.
I'm in favour of it.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it.
Can I speak to Seymour Butts? It's like Bart Simpson, isn't it? We were too gloomy, said a number of people. As well, I think we've kind of counted that. Let's remember the match ball is just shooting from the hip straight away at full time.
Also
raw emotion, Michael.
The balance of the feedback was very gloomy as well. Yeah. There were essentially 3 people who were not gloomy out of about 50 bits of feedback.
Yeah. I'm with them. MG Dodger, Idiot Bitch Andy and Lucy. I'll join your too much gloom.
Idiot Bitch Andy actually does make a good point that we underplayed how good we were in the first 25. But this is the thing, with the match ball, we just kind of, it's based on how you feel at full time, isn't it? It's not like, you don't feel like you can be really pragmatic about it and go, well, the first 25 minutes was enjoyable. It's just a shame about the 65 that followed.
There are. I mean, the other thing about the second half is how easily Palace managed to neutralise us without much of a counter. And then I think it is valid criticism that Marsh's substitutions seem to make us worse rather than better, which is a bit of a theme. Him affecting games in a positive way doesn't seem to have really manifested itself yet. And that's why I was thinking about Rennie Marich, because we've got this boy genius in the dugout alongside him, and you kind of, well, when are we going to get the payoff? If he's
on it now, Moscow.
Well, if he is a tactical mastermind who's putting through all these high-ranking assistant manager jobs before he's even 30, then how come nobody on that bench could come up with an idea to stop Crystal Palace from just basically not trying to play through us anymore and just keeping the ball and chipping it over us? And it was funny because
which Marsh said he recognised that.
Everybody saw it. We all saw it. He saw it.
Do somewhere.
Yeah, and it's like, what's the point? This lad writes 6,000 word blog posts about high, detailed tactical analysis. So fucking have an idea then. So that is a bit.
You just completely blaming Marriott for this.
Well, no, but Marsh as well. And we've joked in the past about Marsh needing...
Fix it. Just fix everything.
Well, he had to have Tyler Adams coming over to the bench when he was 15 saying, like, Jesse, we need to play on the other side, boss. And like, the kid's right. Let's do what the kid says. So, and you start to think, you say that as a joke at first. And you're like, well, why couldn't we do something? And they needed... I did look at Adams and Rocker in midfield and wonder why they couldn't do more about it, because... Palace play very attacking. Since the Chelsea game and then against us, they're just putting all their really skillful attacking players on and kind of going for it. And we stopped that in the first half, which is very good. The fact that Zaha hardly had a kick in the first half is to our credit, to Christensen's credit in particular. But Elise, Eze, Ayew, everybody's quiet. Nobody's doing anything. Good. Then the second half, they kind of abandoned midfield and are just chipping it over our midfield. But that means there's a space there to dominate. So why couldn't we say, all right, they're leaving some room in the middle, Adams, Rocker, instead of just being... I worry that all Adams in particular seems to have is this ratting about, kind of nipping at people, getting on the ball and kind of giving it stuff. I would have loved to see him and Rocker move into that space and dominate and say, right, if you don't want to play here, we'll play here and we'll ping the ball straight lines towards the penalty spot. But try and... It's weird that our midfield, both those players look really good and have a lot of qualities. I'd like to see us dominate a match in that situation, like take control of it, get a grip of it, and not just everybody comes in at the end and goes, well, they were chipping it.
I feel like with Adams, he's really good at that stuff. And if he had better passing options, he would look a better player for it. But because it's really congested, if he could win the ball back and look across, and
we saw this with Phillips, didn't we? At the end of last season.
Yeah. And Harrison was wide, or there's an option for him that isn't stood either
on
behind him or a yard in front of him. Then he's got something he can do with it. But as it is, it gets so congested in there. I think sometimes all you can do is it feels like just trying to force the ball through. So you knock it forward and then you chase it and you hope it gets there, and if you don't, you go again and you win it back. And that kind of is part of the policy of it. But it just looks really messy sometimes.
On the pessimism side of things, Lucy has chucked some numbers at us. Damn you with your evidence and your numbers. Lucy said, didn't feel too bad until I watched the match ball. Sorry. First season back in the Premier League, we had 10 points after 8 games. This season, we've got 9 after 8 games. Last season, we only had 6. Relax. It will all be fine. And then we've got a series of emojis there at the end of the post.
I trust in those emojis. It's a good selection.
There's the winky, stick your tongue out emoji. Some, is that praying?
Some praying and some cross fingers.
Some praying and some cross fingers, which is... They're not the most reassuring emojis.
I was going to say, you've undermined your own statistical point there, Lucy. So
when you combine them with the winky tongue, then it all comes together as just something quite believable. But Lucy's right, and
winky tongue.
I think a lot of it is the worry of what's to come, isn't it? Everyone's oh god, we're going to lose to Arsenal. If we lose to Arsenal, then we'll definitely lose to Leicester, and then if we lose to Leicester, then Fulham will beat us. But future us can worry about that.
30 games to go, Moscow. Can't wait.
Exactly, 30 games. The March to 14th is what we're on, and as well, what do you expect?
Yeah, I don't think. Do you know what? I don't think it's that anybody expected it to necessarily be that much better. I think it's just the reality's shit. But I mean, I had this conversation last night with somebody on WhatsApp, just saying, do you know what? I'm kind of tired of feeling like anxious about Leeds. I spent all season last season doing it, tying myself up in emotional knots, worrying about going down. And it's heading that way this season already. And I kind of had a word with myself after the game and thought, this can't continue. This is not healthy. I know this is my escapism from real life, and you want it to be fun. And that's why we all get resentful and upset about it. But there's no point in twisting yourself up in knots at this stage. It's only October.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably going to be fine.
We scored a great goal.
He said, famous last words.
It was a really good goal from, I think Brendan did beautifully, and we could have scored some more. And when, this is kind of what Marsh's football is like, and it's kind of what the squad that we've got is going to be doing. And the difference is, I think what I'm trying to get across is, even if we were 10th right now, we would not be materially further away from relegation. Like the gaps are not that big, and it only takes a couple of defeats and you'll be back down there. But it takes a couple of wins and you're further up. I don't know. There was never going to be any idea of us being safe from relegation after 8 games. I know that you've had your numbers on this that prove that we can't go down. So
96% chance of staying up. So statistically, we're probably going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So,
mind you, everyone will go if there's one team.
I don't think this is particularly a moment for us to be frantic and stressed about relegation.
That is right. Moscow.
It is right to look at the style of football and say it's not the best, but why did we hire Marsh if we didn't want to play like this?
And also, it's just people are going to feel a bit antsy out there. 5 games without a win, you're going to be a bit nervous. But,
I think that's the thing.
But I was going to say, I watched Forest Villa last night, and that was shit.
Because there was that massive break in the middle, it does just feel like a very, very long time.
Well, this is the other thing. I was again, conversations I've been having with pals, like on text and WhatsApp, saying, if you're going to stay up, you win 9 or 10 games in the Premier League, as we've said sort of famously, like Brighton did. That's once a month.
Yeah.
And then when the season gets chopped up by like obviously what happened with the Queen passing away and the break there, and then we're going to have the World Cup, it's going to be long stretches between wins.
And had we had that Nottingham Forest game, I know it's an assumption to say we would have won, but form suggests we probably would have beaten them. Then that would leave us on 12 points in 8th.
Yeah,
and everyone would be going.
You're just saying what I said earlier. Now.
Yeah, but everyone would be going. That's great, and it's.
Anyway, listen.
But equally, if we don't get that lucky win against Chelsea, I suppose the other way is saying if we didn't beat Wolves, and that game could have gone either way.
Let's just get back to blaming refs.
We could be 18th.
Let's get back to blaming refs.
It goes back to we've raised this point earlier, but Aston Villa last season finished 14th above us and they lost more games than we did. They lost 19 matches. Leicester,
that's half your games, isn't it? That's rubbish.
West Ham finished 7th and they lost 14 games. So you lose a lot of games unless you are Manchester City or Liverpool, as was.
It's rubbish, isn't it?
Maybe Arsenal. Well, it's not rubbish. It's just you've got to remember that.
Hate it.
That's where we are.
30 games to go. We bank another £100 million. Stand there getting shafted by VAR and more refs. Brilliant. I'm having a great time. Let's blame it on refs. I'm doing that because I want to move on and play some more clips. So let's say this one from Ghost Shark.
What a fucking pile of dog shit that was. It was okay first off. Going forward than that. Referee Tierney, the fucking all that. Fuck off, mate. You are. Marsh, taking Bamford off, massive mistake. Just fucking shit. Second half, absolute fucking dog shit.
I mean, I disagree with that. I mean, Bamford looked shot, but if Ghost Shark thinks that's right, I'm prepared to go along with it because he sounds absolutely terrifying.
Comes back for a second go as well.
Oh, really?
It's more clip.
Did I mention that Tierney's all the rest are now? I don't know what's going on. I'm not a fucking conspiracy fucking theorist. But Tierney's he got arrested. Oh, why's that? Because of this fucking shit last week. And on a different note, Will Zaha is a voodoo doll.
So there you go.
Okay.
Zaha had a quite-ish game, didn't he, actually?
Because Christensen had a good one.
Yeah.
But there wasn't the old twisty face, wasn't there a lot, was it?
Not too much. There was one bit where he went down.
He was very frustrated with his teammates on occasions, I noticed, for not being as good as him.
And there was one bit where he went down under a challenge from Gelhardt where he was actually running into the box and should have gone down, but I think Gelhardt touched his shoulder and force of habit sent him clattering to the ground.
To Ghost Shark's wider point, and Dremmett mentioning as well about if Adams had been injured, whether it would have been a red for Decore. It does need mentioning in the context of the game before that of the two players, Luis Sinisterra and his sins against Aston Villa, and then Decore's sins on Sunday, which one of those players should have been shown a red card and miss a game?
Based on the two, well, if you look at the two yellow cards that Sinisterra got, and then the two that Decore should have got.
Which one of those players needed sending off and needed a ban? And even, Decore might have been, I suppose they're borderline yellows and hard oranges and all the other things that, whatever else you get from a greengrocer's, a few sour lemons and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it just goes back to me thinking Sinisterra got sent off for now, and then a player can do all this and stay on the pitch.
Do you know what I have to say? Absolutely, for choosing that hill to die on, Moscow, you have been for at least sort of 2 weeks. Sinisterra should not have been sent off, and all our woes come back to that.
Well, not all our woes, but it's just it's a shame, isn't it? That we, and a lot of this game,
greatest league in the world.
A lot of this game was saying, Rodrigo might not have played if Sinisterra had been fit, and then we would have had a much more dangerous player who could take advantage when we were on top and create things when we were under the cosh in the second half. And it makes a difference. But then you've got Dakari just going around stamping all over Tyler Adams' ankles. And Dremmett makes a good point that if he'd gone full strike on that Liverpool kid's ankle...
More of that later, actually.
Then would it have been a red card for him? Would that have settled it? Is that the only difference? So it is a bit...
I cannot wait. I cannot wait until we're having these conversations again next year, but we're directing it all at the 49ers.
I thought you were going to say, but we're talking about championship football.
No, we're not. No, we'll be fine. We'll be saying, well, come on, why haven't the 49ers bought us a better left back? Where's the striker that we've been talking about? Why haven't they bought us
a better referee?
Because Junior Firpo is going to be back in just a month's time.
Yeah. Let's hear from Rich then to kind of wrap this thought up.
I mean, we're all tired of hearing it, but failure to sign a left back and a striker in the transfer window was just irresponsible. I mean, we can't play Strauke's best position because we haven't got a left back or one that can play. And we don't have an alternative to Bamford, who's given us 2 goals and 2 assists and less than 20 minutes a game on average over the last 2 seasons. So it starts there. I do think Jesse got it all wrong. Second half substitutions, all wrong. And if you're going to give Joffrey and Cree an opportunity, the so-called pathway, then give them an opportunity. Get them on from the start, give them a run of 5 games, not 7 minutes at the end of the game, for fuck's sake.
I liked how Rich kind of said that with a familiarity, Joffrey and Cream are mates, the lads who I hang out with. Yeah, it's true. It all ultimately comes back to just shortcomings, doesn't it? And we wish it was all that bit better.
Yeah, better players would make it all much better. It'd be a lot easier if we had just like loads of really good ones. I think the Joffy point is probably the thing I agree with most in that, is that because I've always been ambivalent about whether we need to sign another striker, because we have Gelhardt, Joseph, Perkins, now we've got Nonto as well. Even Max Dean as a 17-year-old looks, I think it must be 18 now, but he looks pretty good. So there's enough kind of coming through, and you don't want to end up with none of them coming through because...
All right, Angus.
Well, yeah. Well, don't throw... I mean, do we want... Why throw that at me every single time? It's not actually a bad thing to say. I would like our youth...
I mean, well done.
I would like our youth players to have long, successful careers at Leeds United. What's your problem with that?
Well, let me tell you.
I want someone expensive.
Leeds Arsenal on Sunday. Tierney is our VAR, so let's see if he can redeem himself when it comes down to it.
Hopefully he'll have Ghost Shark in his headphones.
Give it. Get a fucking red card or I'll kill you. Right.
But to finish that off, but those players need to actually play at some point. Like, it's all very well leaving the pathway open for them and not signing players to block the way, but then 7 minutes for Joffrey was not enough. And whether he needs to start ahead of Bamford while he's getting fit, or just be the first replacement for him, bring him on with half an hour to actually do something. But and even in the 7 minutes that he came on, his little chance at the end where he scooped it up for himself and was ready to volley it into the top corner.
Would have been amazing.
Alfie Haaland style was, he's the only player for about 40 minutes who actually had an idea like that. And that's worth having him on the pitch more to try and do those things. And Cody Hakpo, he's a Leeds-hating scumbag, so he can stay in Eindhoven, as far as I'm concerned.
I never wanted him anyway.
Unless he does sign, in which case, then, fuck Gelhardt, frankly.
Let's do the player of the year.
Sign for Norwich.
Player of the year tracker. There's been an exciting development in this, lads. We've had 2 of the top 3 change places, so we're feeding all the ratings that we get across the season into the supercomputer. Tyler Adams drops from 2 to 3 in the top 3 here.
Let himself down.
7.04 is average now. Aronson 7.05, pipping him by a whisker.
Go Brendan.
And Elan Mellier still holding on to top spot, 7.18 for your player of the year. Marsh has got 5.64 so far out of 10. His rating is just sort of, you can see where we peaked against Chelsea, it's just sort of gradually tailing
Looks
off.
Like the pound.
Yes.
Just a continual drop.
Not gradually. It absolutely plumbed the depth against Brentford.
Yeah.
So he's doing quite well to hold his average up that way. But yeah, he was 3 out of 10 for this, which is probably, perhaps underrates the first 25 minutes, but it's probably bang on for the way that we failed to affect the rest of it.
Right then,
do something. If you and your kid,
if you want to read the full listings for the player of the year,
maybe
by the way,
we can reverse, because we always say get Eddie Gray in and play the kids. Maybe it's get Eddie Gray playing and put Marich in charge. Get the kids in managing, but they have to manage Eddie Gray as player. And Paul Reaney. We saw Paul Reaney recently. He looked well fit.
I reckon really good nicking him.
I was going to say, I reckon Eddie Gray could still probably beat a man.
So there we go.
Alan Clark looked in good shape as well.
Get them all in. Put Rennie Marich in charge. That's the
excellent.
Alan Clark would have finished that Bamford chance.
He would.
Let me just say, by the way,
and he'll have been doing his nut if he was watching that.
To read the full player of the year listings, we're tracking it in the mag this season. Have we got a new mag out for Arsenal?
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who bought the one that came out against Forest. But we sold loads of those when we did finally get a match. And yeah, the new issue is going to be great. Rob Conlon's written loads and loads and loads about wrestling.
Right.
But it's really, really good. And I mentioned Alfie Haaland then, but there's a lot about 1997-98 season, and against Blackburn, he scored that goal that Joffrey attempted, where he
the flick and the turn.
Flicked it up and turned and volleyed it in the top corner. The fourth of 4 against Blackburn Rovers. And then do you know what Gary Kelly did to celebrate with him?
He either kissed him or...
Did he jump over the top of him?
No.
Was it that one?
Crawled on the floor? Was it the pylon?
He stood behind him for a while with his hands in the air, being ignored. And then because he was being ignored, he kicked him up the back of the calf. And he was still ignored because Alfie don't care. But eventually Alfie Haaland did turn around and was like, you just kick me? He's like, yes.
Sat on his mountain of money now, Alfie Haaland. Mountain of money. Money ties your children. That's the lesson we've learned from that, isn't it, Michael? You're working on the boys.
Hopeless. I'll be subsidising them.
The mag will be out against Arsenal. It'll be on sale down the east side of Ellen Road if you are in town, by the way. And we take cards as well, don't we? Which is exciting. So if you don't want to pay with cash, we can take cards, and you can buy it at thesquareball.net as well. So look out for that.
If somebody started selling a rival fanzine down the west side,
east side,
we'd have We'd have a right old coastal rivalry going.
Like the old left side, right side chants from the 1980s. Right, we'll wrap it up there. We'll see you in a bit.
The Square Ball Podcast.